Just a reminder before today's programme that the previous episode of the Ident Review is still available to view, where we caught up with ITV Creates. And now, here on AMTV, to help celebrate Halloween in Halloween week, it's time for the Halloween instalment of the Ident Review. The VPRO launched as a public broadcaster for radio on the 29th of May 1926 over in the Netherlands. Originally translating to meaning liberal Protestant radio broadcasting, the company eventually dropped the Protestant angle throughout the 1950s and 60s. With a change in direction to being more social liberal, the VPRO eventually expanded from radio into television. It didn't have its own channel, none of the Dutch public broadcasters did, but it would create programming often in collaborations with overseas broadcasters, including the BBC. Now, the VPRO was renowned for accepting super creative artists into their fold and for creating television that in many ways was ahead of its time. This can also be said for many of its idents that began popping up throughout the 1970s, some of which you've been seeing on screen. But as it's nearing Halloween, I thought we'd take a look at the more weird and wacky side of the VPRO. A lot of these are quite short, so keep your eyes peeled, there may be some played in batches. So without further ado, the first batch of idents we will look at I have lovingly titled The Gong Man. If you thought that was odd, that's how it's going to be for the rest of the episode. So we see this blonde gong man enter to do the job he was made for, banging the gong above the VPRO logo. When watching it sequentially like this, take 1 sees him hit the gong but supposedly break the universe by doing so as we cut to black. Take 2 is almost like a comedic false start, with him not banging the gong at all and just laughing away to camera. Take 3 sees him hit the gong and then walk casually out of the shot, and I must admit the first time I watched take 3 I laughed out loud. Not because it's a comedic masterpiece, but after the randomness of the first 2 takes, I was literally wondering what on earth is going to happen now. And well, nothing happens, which to me at least made it funny. Take 4 sees no gong, the man just walking to the centre, posing at how manly he presumably is, before a hand appears to squash him out of existence. For early 1970s idents, already you can see how ahead of the time the VPRO was. Early chroma key technology, a precursor to blue and green screens, would have presumably been used to help make both this and many of the idents you'll see today. Well, Gong Man, you were amusing alright. Shame you had to quite literally vanish before our eyes. Let's move on now to our next oddity, which we shall call melting. I have several questions here. First of all, the soundscape of this one is beyond bizarre. A mixture of warped out sounds and different humans moaning. What they're moaning about, well, that's up to you dirty-minded viewer. They could just be squeezing out a giant poo for all you know. The design of the ident itself is certainly unique, the VPRO logo almost emerging from the background before melting in front of us. Now normally I know that some people find the image of things melting quite a relaxing or therapeutic experience, but when you combine melting with these visuals and this soundscape, if anything, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. I've also thought this could be the result of a massive drug trip. Depending on what drugs you're taking, this could have definitely been the result. It's interesting and certainly captivates your attention. It leaves a lot up to your imagination, and I still can't help but feel a little unnerved by this sequence. I think we should crack on over to our next ident of the day, which we shall refer to as Wavy. Oh, and if you have epilepsy or can't deal with strobes, I would skip this one. Well, they were definitely products of the 70s. These two variants are more typical of their time in terms of music and visuals, I'd argue. The VPRO logo is static this time, but coupled with some super trippy video effects. It's almost like the designers just discovered several new video techniques and had free rein to play around and literally come up with whatever they wanted, no matter how disjointed it may be. Saying that, the VPRO was always known for its avant-garde or experimental programming, so I guess stuff like this is to be expected. The first one I prefer the most, mainly because I can actually see the main logo. With the second one, whilst we know it's meant to be the VPRO logo, it is practically unrecognisable amidst the black and white strobing effect that they have going on here. Not bad idents per se, but there is a way I would argue to distort your idents and have them have some sort of impact still, not just create a flashing mess that could give your viewers a seizure. Anyway, my eyes are starting to hurt now, so hopefully the next one will be a bit easier to view. Here is Fish. Ah, much more calming. We see a nice serene video of some fish minding their own business in the sea. That is, before the VPRO logo comes swimming by. I like this one mainly because it shows that the VPRO can pull off more relaxing and easy on the eye idents that are still unique, as opposed to just being strange for the sake of it. My one criticism would be that I would have liked it if the VPRO logo had been more prominent throughout the entire sequence, because it feels like we have to wait quite a while to see it for the second time. Technologically though, again, I think this one is way ahead of its time. For the early 1970s, compared to what was being shown over here on BBC and ITV, this is miles and miles ahead. But we've had our time to calm down now, so let's get back to some true weirdness with our next ident, Piano. Weird, but with a sense of calm. It's always nice to hear a simple piano tune played out before your very eyes, some of the most relaxing and soothing music that there is. The weirdness comes in with the visuals. The effect seems to be a sort of merged mirror, where it almost looks like there are either two sets of hands tickling the ivories, or that it's one pair of hands that have somewhat merged with another. It's a neat little effect, especially for the 70s, but I think it just comes off as looking bizarre with no real purpose. It's more of a distraction away from the nice music that's playing, and it's more of a personal preference, but if you ask me to choose between hearing lovely piano music or seeing weird visuals of a piano being played, I would definitely go for the former. Let's turn the oddness up a notch as we head to look at the spiritual cousin of the Gong Man. Brace yourselves, it's the Flying Man. Okay. Even though the Flying Man only gets one short variant, I would argue to some extent he is instantly more memorable than the Gong Man. He flies aboard the VPRO logo, itself stylized with some sort of wings, with this man in his underwear striking down on the logo to, well, I'm not sure what he's doing, to be honest. Is he making lightning? Is he forging something? Really, you pick your poison. The chroma key technology is a bit more obvious here. Just look for the fringing around the VPRO logo and the man himself. But again, considering this was the first half of the 70s, the effect has been pulled off surprisingly well here. The man syncs up well with the logo, and I'm certain that it would have at least caught the eye of Dutch viewers at the time. We salute you, flying man. May you keep flying for years to come. What's that? You want more random strangeness? Well, fear not, dear viewer, for I present to you our next ident of the day, sunglasses.
Als u het één avond per week eens anders wilt zien dan u het gewend bent te zien, dan moet u wel laten merken dat u dat wilt. Bel daarom een van de volgende nummers en neem het VPRO-lidmaatschap erbij. Doe het nu, voordat de wet van de grote getallen gaat vertellen dat iedereen maar hetzelfde moet willen.
Understood what you just watched? No, me neither. So we see this impressive array of different sunglasses, all floating around the screen in almost quite a hypnotic fashion. One of them takes the center before the lens smashes, revealing a huge human eye. If that didn't surprise you enough, you were then bombarded with a message from the continuity announcer and a series of phone numbers. The VPRO logo once again adopting a seizure-inducing colour palette of stripes, whizzing by your eyes at a million miles an hour. Now I don't speak the language, so maybe one of you guys could translate in the comments for us all, but if I had to guess, it could be to do with those numbers that pop up? Maybe it's the VPRO phone line or something. To be honest, I'm still thinking about whether my sunglasses are going to smash to reveal a human eye. This ident also had a spiritual sequel, which we shall look at right now, so here is Lips.
Als u eens een avond per week iets anders wilt horen dan u gewend bent om te horen, dan moet u dat wel laten merken.
My god, the human lips, teeth and tongue never look so strange. So like sunglasses, here we have an ever-spawning array of human mouths floating towards the camera, which seem odd at first, but the more you look at them, it just becomes stranger and stranger, or it really makes you realise how strange parts of the human body actually are. The fact that the singing is almost quite muffled in the soundtrack just makes this sequence even more eerie than it already is. I don't know if that was the intention, but hey, with these idents we've seen so far, it really could be anything. Once again, there is an announcement, but no phone numbers this time, and thankfully no trippy VPRO logo either. The chroma keying for the most part is solid once again, although we do see a bit of fringing when the lips go into freeze frame. So if you've been spooked by sunglasses and now human mouths, what do we have for you next? Well, prepare to be perplexed with error. We can't seem to get enough of trippy 70s psychedelia, can we? Now, aside from all the colourful video effects that take up most of the picture, I'm sure some of you are wondering why I titled this one as Error. Well, I took note of the text that popped up partway through the sequence. It reads, "Er is iets mis." Now, I don't speak Dutch and I probably pronounced that wrong, but let's run this into Google Translate and see what we Oh. Something's wrong? Well, that's creepy. How would you feel if you turned on your TV, this trippy array of colours came up on your screen, and your only scrap of knowledge you get is the station saying that something's wrong? Well, what's wrong? Was this a placeholder ident for when there were technical difficulties? Was it a lead into a specific program? Or was it just made for the sake of being weird or with the intention to creep viewers out? I do like the boldness the designers had to literally make an ident that proclaims something is wrong, but God, give us a bit more than that. It's up to our imaginations once again. And whilst the obvious answer may be to point at the colourful patterns as the source of the error, my mind wonders if it could be a little deeper than that. But hey, we have no time to get into conspiracies. Instead, we shall move on to our next ident today, which is Spirals and Stripes. I swear to God they were trying to hypnotise the Dutch people back in the 70s. Whilst these variants are arguably less obnoxious or seizure-inducing compared to some of the previous idents we've looked at, it's the combination of the ever-moving spirals and stripes mixed with soothing, looping music that makes you feel like you're trying to be taken into some sort of trance. It's ironic that they're probably some of the least weird idents in this entire set, but yet they're strangely captivating. And my eyes are getting very heavy. No, not falling for it. Let's move on quickly now to our next sequence, which we shall call Sheet. This must have been a laugh to film. My own hypothetical scenario for this ident is they were trying to come up with ideas and one of their designers was playing around with a big old bedsheet, to which the rest of the team were like, oh yeah, that's a winner, just move your hands against it, Dave, and we've got a winner. Some people could interpret this as trying to allude to a more naughty moment, shall we say, and trust me, the jamming 70s beat doesn't help as it's very much a caricature of supposed seducing music of the era. Aside from that, Sheet loses its appeal quite quickly as nothing really happens. Odd as well that they choose to make the background outside the triangle the exact same as well. Something different there might have helped make this one a bit more interesting. Hopefully our next ident can go some way to picking up the pace. One thing about brains is that they can be scanned, so let's take a look at some variants with that namesake, scanning. I hope you guys have some semblance of sanity left. So the first one shows the return of the Starfield background. I suppose it was the closest thing VPRO ever got to a standard template. We see a beam scanning across what looks like a very old-fashioned globe. I would argue that the beam of light is meant to represent aliens, or some form of higher deity or unknown force, scanning the Earth. The musical soundtrack, which sounds quite tense and surprisingly like something that could fit into a 50s B-movie, only reinforces this view. The second one is even more abstract, with a red wavy link creating black patches across the VPRO logo, almost like it's erasing parts of it from existence. Again, if that's what they're going for, like many of these, you really do have to rely on your imagination as to what they could truly represent. What I do admire in these, and through all of them as mentioned, is the willingness to try new video techniques and experiment. So many stations either wait until others have done the legwork, or just play it safe all the time. It seems to be a designer at VPRO was anything but. We're coming towards the end now, so let's take a look at our penultimate ident of the day, Bird. Talk about subverting expectations. This ident starts off all nice and soft, a swinging VPRO logo against the Starfield background, with some soothing music to make us feel settled and relaxed. Then, without warning, the logo becomes an interestingly animated bird, whose squawks make it sound like he's choking on something awful. This one feels more random for the sake of it, more to surprise the audience out of nowhere with the closing moment. I mean, the gag works the first time you see it arguably, but it doesn't really have longevity as one of its strengths. I don't have much more to say on this one. I wish if anything there'd been more variants where the logo changed into different things, but for now, Bird is what we have. And now, our grand finale for the day, let's have a look at Stairs. What a perfect way to sum up this entire batch. Stairs and its variants are just bonkers. The first sees a bunch of household items strewn across a staircase, only for a fridge to come crashing down and sweeping much of it off, the music making it sound like this is the grand finale piece to some kind of classical farcical film. The second variant is much in the same vein, only this time cardboard boxes are being demolished by the canoe man, who speeds down with no intent of letting anything stop him. The effects work is good so far, but if you look at the cardboard boxes, you can see one gets stuck at the bottom of the picture at some point, implying that the crash mat for things isn't too far from the stairs itself. The third variant shows a singer slowly descending the staircase, only to fall off right at the end, her voice echoing across the starfield. I like all three of these simply for just how chaotic they are. You could argue none of them really have a point to them, but more than any other idents today, I feel like that is the point. This is pure, unmitigated fun and chaos, and I can only imagine the designers had a ball setting up and filming these. The singer variant carries an end title, and it serves rather fittingly as the end of our look today at the VPRO Idents of the 1970s. Overall then, what on earth do I say to summarise this wacky bunch? Well, the main thing I can praise is the creativity and the originality that many of these idents carry with them. To be creating works in the 1970s that were both bold and new technologically, but also from a design and ideas point of view, really is quite admirable to look back on. Certainly compared to the UK's ident output in the 70s, the Dutch had a much more interesting and unique time with the little sequences that came before and after their programmes. VPRO continues on today, but their 70s idents, for all their ingenuity, their madness, their randomness, they all help carve a very fitting and deserving place for the VPRO in television ident history. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Ident Review, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more ident content. And I shall see you all next time. Happy Halloween! A massive thank you to our producer and director patrons for your support towards us here at AMTV. You just help keep us going, and that's massively appreciated. And that does bring us to the end of another evening here on AMTV. We hope you enjoyed the programme, and we hope to see you next time. Good night.